Hello, everybody.
Hi. How are we?
Sunday morning. What's going on with that? Kind of weird.
Yay. Yeah. I would have done it yesterday, except for I was in class at 5 a.m, so.
It sounds atrocious.
How is everyone? I'm so excited to be here talking to people.
Yeah, I know it's only been like a month since our last live show, but it's felt like a long time.
Yeah.
We haven't had a live show since last year.
Crazy how that works. Yeah, I haven't done anything YouTube related since last year as well, technically.
How do you feel about that? Is it a nice break?
I guess I did it at the beginning of January. I did some YouTube stuff, but I just miss this. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Hello, hello.
Welcome, everybody who's now joining.
Someone said they literally finished this 2 hours ago. Love that.
I respect the level of procrastination on that.
Yeah, I was talking to Katie last night, and I was like, you ready? She's like, when I finish the book, I will be. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, we're doing it this time.
I've been reading this steadily. And it's not like the other books where I left until the last minute where I was like, oh, I don't want to read this book. I'm just like, haven't gotten around to it. But I was excited to finish it up, so it was all good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Wow, we have a lot of people that apparently have just finished it today.
Half an hour ago?
I love that.
Can anyone beat half an hour? Oh, wait, I need 5 more pages. All right.
You have time. We usually start around 5-10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Just that way it gives people a little bit of time to join and gives us a little bit of time to catch up.
Chatting sesh. As we proceed to not chat.
Oh, goodness. Hope everyone has been doing well. I'm really excited to discuss this book.
Me too.
So far, when I was like peeking into the Discord to see the discourse, people were enjoying it and excited to pick up the next one. And that makes us feel good because, we picked the series that we also have to read. So
yeah, like I'm really excited that we're reading series, but it's always scary because you're like, what if you like hate the first book in the series and then you're just like committed to it for the next 3 months?
Yep. But luckily, the reception has been good.
Yeah. How are you feeling today, Cass?
How am I feeling? Yeah. I got to sleep in today. I woke up at 8:30. I was like, lovely.
Very nice.
I've been waking up at like 3:30, 4:30. I think the latest I've slept in is like 5:45. If you don't know, I am currently in flight attendant training, so my class times start at like 4 and 5 and 7 in the morning. So it's been some early mornings and a lot of studying, and that's why I'm just so excited to be talking about something that is not related to planes or aviation or my job, because that is all I've been doing for the past 3 weeks. But I have 2 more weeks left, and then I'm out of here.
So close.
So close yet so far. Yeah, we have a couple 4 a.m. classes this week, and I'm like, you cannot expect me to be awake at 2:30 in the morning, getting ready for class. But here we are, living that reality.
Just living, laughing, and loving.
Yeah, so if you hear any noises outside, it's typically aircrafts because I'm literally like in a school on airport ground, basically. So hop, skip, and a jump over to the plane.
Yeah.
Why do they need to start at 4 a.m.? Kit, that is a really good question. I would love the answer to that. But basically I think we have like 65 people, and we're like split up into like AM and PM classes. And we have like 10 to 12 hour days. So they have to like schedule people early in the morning, and then the PM crew is finishing at like 2 a.m, midnight, that sort of thing. So it's on both extremes. It's just to have time to do everything. But they keep telling us this is realistic for your job. And I'm like, I mean, I guess. But
Do they think you're just gonna like wake up at 4 a.m. every day, whether or not you're going on a flight or not?
I mean, I don't know, but I've been trying to like keep my sleep schedule on the days like sorry. Oh goodness. I've been trying to keep my sleep schedule on the days that I'm off, but that is today, and I woke up at 8:30, and that is my new like sleeping in. I used to sleep in until like noon, and now 8:30 is me sleeping in.
Like there's so many calls that we've been on where it's like, I don't know, 4 in the afternoon. She's like, yeah, I've only been up for like 4 hours. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you sleep in until noon?
Yeah, not anymore. This has changed me.
You're a new woman. New year, new you.
New year, new me.
Yeah.
Someone asked, how is your Diet Coke today?
It is scrumptious. I have started drinking canned Diet Coke. I was never a canned Diet Coke girly before.
Ooh, okay.
But it's so good. And it's also just like in my house all the time, so it's great.
Are you drinking out of a mason jar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had this mason jar for a long time.
Got that Pinterest aesthetic going on.
That's what I was aiming for. I've had this for like 10 years. When I was like 13, I was like, this is my vibe now.
Love it.
But honestly, I do like drinking out of a mason jar. It's kind of nice.
Like that, the sound it makes with the ice cubes.
Yeah, I mean, little Diet Coke ASMR. I have both of my cats are sitting on my bed right now, and they just like stared at me.
Oh, love that. We're going to talk for about 3 more minutes, and then we will start discussing An Ember in the Ashes.
Someone asked how Winnie's doing. She is amazing. Annoying.
No, she's a menace, per usual.
She is a menace. She has been barfing everywhere in my house. She barfed on my chair the other night.
No.
She did. I woke up. It was like 1 a.m. and she was just sitting over there looking so guilty. And there was just like a little bit of cat barf on my chair. I was like, I cannot do this right now. I simply cannot. So I went back to sleep.
She was trying to eat your lights the other day, too.
She was. She loves attempting to chew on my fairy lights. But for the most part, I turn these off when I'm not in the room. So she's not going to electrocute herself. So don't worry, guys. I'm on it.
But she's a menace.
Yeah. Katie, did you see the Fairy Loot House Moving Castle? I did see the Fairy Loot House Moving Castle. I have no hope that I'm actually going to get it. I looked at like the likes on that post versus like the other likes that Fairy Loot gets on their account. That one has 50,000 likes on it. The others have like 8. Everybody wants it. I don't think I'm going to get it, which is really sad, but I do really want it.
Hopefully the people that do get it won't just like straight up resell it immediately, knowing that they'll get a profit. Yeah, I know. Let me be optimistic for once, okay?
I'll probably end up buying it secondhand at some point in time. I mean, obviously I'll try and get it, but I canceled my Fairy Loot subscription like last month, so I don't even have early access to it anymore.
No. So it's probably going to sell out just from the early access people.
That's what I'm thinking. I feel like they never have enough stock.
No.
But that's my sad, good news, but sad news for the week.
Yeah. How many people sent that to you?
So many people. I really appreciate that.
Oh, goodness.
One sec.
Honestly, in the same way. I'm like, oh, look at this, Katie. Look at this, Katie. Someone said every time I see anything Studio Ghibli related, I'm like, Katie.
I love that so much.
That's a good thing to be associated with, honestly. Alrighty. Are we ready? Is everyone ready to start chit-chatting?
Yes. What do we all rate it?
What was the star rating for An Ember in the Ashes? Oh, I didn't even think about my star rating. I think I'm going to give it a 4.
That's probably what I'd give it if I was going to rate it.
Solid 4. I don't know where to put this. I'm just going to...
For a while, it was like a 3.75, and then I was like, you know what, it's just kind of a 4. I think it's a 4.
Feeling like a 4. All right, let's see. 4, 5, 4.5, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 4. This makes me so happy. I hate when we do. I don't hate when we do because then we can have some good discourse. But like when people are like two, 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 one, one and a half, I'm like, oh no. But seeing this, lots of fours, couple of fives.
I feel like also when everybody dislikes the book, the live shows are like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. Oh goodness. Okay. So pretty much between 3.5 to 5 stars.
Yeah.
So that's pretty solid. A lot of 4.5s. Let's talk about it. I don't even know how to begin. It's been a couple of weeks since I finished this book.
I'm hoping that as we progress through the series, the books will get better. Even better. Maybe there'll be some 5 stars in there.
Maybe. I've read this series before. That was quite a few years ago now, and I barely remember anything other than like one major event. But rereading this was so nice because I knew it was a good series and I knew that I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a favorite. But comparing it to like current day YAs, it's really strong.
When was this book written? Like
2017, 2016?
2015.
2015. I was getting there.
Yeah.
Look, I met the author before she finished the series. She has like a cute little, she drew a little freaking mask on there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Slay.
So now I can't get rid of my paperback.
Do you have the hardcover of it as well?
I don't. I only have the hardcover of the last 2. I don't own the second book.
You don't own the second one?
No, I unhauled it because my parents got it for me as a gift, but they got the wrong cover. So it didn't match the rest of the series. So I had unhauled it.
Someone said this feels like the older end of YA because of the themes that are involved. I agree that this kind of feels like a little bit more than some of the other YA series that you see. I feel like it's verging on like the new adult kind of whatever, but it's not quite there.
Absolutely. But I definitely think it is the core of like a YA book, right? There's like mature themes. It's not like talking down to the reader, but it's also not diving into topics that are NA or adult and things that like young adults should not be consuming. Katie and I were talking yesterday and she said it was almost on like the verge of like a grim dark.
Yeah, it's very brutal. I wasn't expecting it to be quite as brutal as it was. I feel like I've never read a YA series that's like this, has this many like dark things going on, but I liked it. Like I don't like adult grim dark because it's too dark.
Yeah.
But this was good. I liked
like a watered down version of the Poppy War.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. We've got some people absolutely popping off in the comments over here. I'm like trying to keep up.
She showed us that she was not like other girls and didn't tell us. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I really liked Laya as a main character. Like she was good. I'd like to get to know her a little bit better, but
absolutely. I think my main qualms I can't really have qualms about because this is a YA written in 2015 and that was like the love triangle aspect. I'm like, why are we doing this? I don't see it, but why are we doing this? But it makes sense. So I think that was my major like qualm with Laya, but I definitely like Elias and like Helene. I really like their. Do we get Helene point of views in this book?
No.
Okay. I do believe we get her POVs in later books.
I'm very intrigued to see where her character is going to go.
So I think this series has some of the most like really cool like character development and character changes and just there's a lot that goes on.
Yeah.
But I have to agree that the love triangle did feel really, it just felt forced. Like the author didn't originally put one in there and then the publisher was like, hey, it's 2015. Where's your romance at?
Yeah.
Added almost as an afterthought.
I feel like I didn't really view it too much as like a love triangle because Laya also has like her thing, whatever, going on with whatever. What was his name? What's that dude's name? Keenan?
Keenan?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like just a lot of romance going on that I didn't really care about.
Yeah, because it was like Laya and Keenan, and then Elias liked Laya, but then Helene liked Elias. yeah, it was just.
I'm like, I know these other two probably 99%.
Like singular lines. Like this character likes this character, but then this character likes this character, but then this character likes this character.
Yeah. I was like, I don't need these outside romances. They're not going to go anywhere.
But then also this was my like main issue too, is like Keenan he felt like very like a shell, like a very hollow character. We got way more development with obviously the characters that were more prominent, Elias, Helene, but even like Cook and what is Slave Girl's name? Not Slave Girl. The other slave. Who?
Izzy.
Yes, thank you. I feel like we got more of their characters than we did with Keenan. We were kind of automatically trustful and then distrustful, and it's kind of like back and forth. And yeah, he was absolutely like barely there. So I feel like I think maybe my qualm with the romance isn't necessarily like Laya, but the lack of Keenan we got to be like, where's that connection?
Like when the augur was talking to Laya and they were like, you know, your heart wants Keenan and your body is like a light. When you say Elias, I was like, does her heart want Keenan? Because that is not what I've been getting from this whole book.
Literally. I think the only thing we've really gotten from Laya is like she's mildly attracted to both of them in a physical sense.
Yeah.
There's been no connection on a deeper level other than with, like, Keenan being her only like source of sanity outside of her being a slave in this war camp. Who was your favorite character?
I don't know. I liked Laya. Her characters or like her story was interesting, but I feel like Elias's was a little bit more intriguing to read just because he's like on the inside of everything. But like he's going to desert, he's going like back and forth on all his feelings about these things, and I feel like his character was a little bit more complex than Laya's was, and I really enjoyed his points of view a lot more.
Absolutely. And I think Elias is like that perfect like middle ground between Helene and Laya. And it was really cool to see him battle with both sides of like the way he was raised, the ways he was like trained versus like the humanity part of him. Well, Helene is a really interesting character. I definitely have qualms with characters that are like not like super strict to the rules, like super strict rule followers like Helene was. And it makes sense because again, they were all brought up in this war camp, but Elias had that little bit of backstory where he wasn't born and expecting to be shoved into this war camp. So he had a lot more humanity left to him. Mm-hmm. But I think he was like the perfect middle ground where it's interesting to see him partake in activities he didn't agree with and then also learn how to have sympathy and such for like Laya.
Yeah. I feel like his was just like a very accurate depiction of like what somebody probably would be going through if they were put into like such a situation. And I just liked it. But I really liked the dual POV that we got between the both of them. I feel like that worked really well for this story.
Absolutely. There was never like a POV that I was like, ugh, like I don't want to read from this character. Can we go back from the other character? They each like steadily kept moving the plot forward and added value and context without being too like pushy in your face about world building. I feel like the world building was really natural. Yes, there were some like supernatural elements. I was trying to find the word supernatural elements that were kind of introduced that were a little confusing because even the characters didn't believe it, but then we got to like speak with the augurs and they kind of expanded upon that, but it never was like info dumpy because that is a qualm that I have with, you know, quite a few fantasy books is they never know how to like present the information. Like we had, let's say Fourth Wing where the character was just like spouting information as her way to like focus. And I'm like, this is the direction we're going.
A little heavy-handed.
Yes. And then we have things like Crescent City where it's just like pages and pages of info dumping. So I think this struck a good balance with introducing enough information for the reader to be able to follow along and understand things, but also not too much information because the characters aren't even fully aware of like all the supernatural beings and how everything works. They weren't even aware of their existence. They thought they were myths. So I think that was a good balance that they striked.
Yeah.
Towards the end, I couldn't stop thinking about who the commandment spy was.
I kind of forgot about that.
I kind of forgot about that too.
I feel like that's definitely going to come up later.
I think it is definitely explored in the second book, and I just wish I remembered anything from the second book. But I like the dual POV, but hated that we kept skipping back in time with the switches. It felt really confusing and ruined the tension and flow for me a lot of the times.
I kind of liked that it somewhat went back in time a little bit to, like, you know, one chapter ended with Elias heard a scream, and then it went back to, like, where Laia was, like, in her story, and kind of led up to that. I kind of liked how that was told. I don't really think it took me out of the story, really. What do you think?
I probably feel the same, because it's like, it leaves you on that tension, and then it kind of like snaps you back to like right before the action. So I think for me, that definitely kept me like intrigued and wanting to, you know, keep turning the page and figure out what's going to happen.
See, I wanted a bit more world building, but I loved how it felt natural when introduced to the story. So I'll be patient to learn more. That's kind of how I feel too about that. I'm sorry, my computer just did something. Yeah, I'm excited to just learn like more of the world, because obviously we haven't gotten a ton of it yet, and I really want to know more about like the supernatural elements, because even though they were expanded upon a little bit, I still don't know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they will definitely like explore that in later books. But I think the amount of information we got in this book was good, right? You're not like overwhelming the reader, but you're leaving some intrigue for they want to continue on to the second book and explore more. I love the end of this book. I think it knew from the start it was going to be a 4-book series. That's kind of what it feels like. So we're getting this introduction, but it's not rushed. I don't think the second book is going to feel filler like a lot of like trilogies. Typically it's like the second book is very like filler, because they're like, oh, we have to like set up for the big third finale. But we already have so much that we can explore with the Resistance, with Laia's brother, and I'm assuming that's what we're focusing on in the second book, is that situation. It'll be really interesting to see Elias and Laia work in close quarters as they go out on this mission.
Yeah, I feel like this book just like sets up the series really well, but it doesn't feel like just a setup book.
Yes, absolutely.
Those remind me of the Silent Brothers.
That's exactly what they reminded me of as well.
I couldn't figure out like how to imagine the augurs in my head, so they were kind of just like faceless beings, but I like that comparison.
They were just dudes in cloaks.
Yeah.
Someone said, I feel like Laia went from very timid to super brave at the end, and almost a too quick of a turn. I can understand that in a way, but I think her being in the environment that she was, I think it was like a slow buildup of her gaining that confidence while being, right? So we started with her not even wanting to like spy on the commander, right? She didn't want to like sneak into the office, but then we had small moments where she like climbed, where she was like hanging outside the window, like eavesdropping on the commander. There were situations that then she faced with like Marcus and whatever the heck his brother's name was. So I think there was like slow buildups, but nothing like, I don't know. I feel like there was a buildup.
I think
she acted in the way she knew she had to per the situation, right?
I think especially based on all the things that she had gone through, like in the past, however long this book took, it makes sense that she would have to make a leap like that so quickly. And especially when she was talking to Spiro Tulliman, and he was talking about like the 2 different types of grief. There's the grief that, I don't remember what he said about the first type of grief, but the second time I was like,
someone quoted, where is it? Oh, there we go. Or guilt or grief?
Or guilt. It gives you like that kind of purpose. And I feel like that's kind of what Laia was doing in a way.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Now that it's guilt, I feel like that doesn't work with what I was saying. I was thinking it was grief.
I mean, she feels guilt over the fact that she left her brother, which I understand to a certain extent, but also like I don't remember who was talking to her about that, where it was like, if you stayed, you would have been dead. It might have been Elias. I think it was when she got locked in the room with Elias.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it felt like a natural character progression for her in the story, personally.
I really like the trials. The augurs really knew how to destroy any individualism. Absolutely. The trials were absolute like batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And like the things that these characters had to go through I'm really excited to explore more of like the mental degradation of Marcus into like insanity.
Yeah.
Because you know it's going to happen. Like, he killed his brother.
Twin.
Like, that's twin brother.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Even, yeah, when Elias and Helene were killing their own classmates.
When I read that, like, obviously, like, that trial in general, but, like, specifically when I read that Marcus had to kill Zach, like, my mouth was like, what's going on? Like, especially because I went into this book not really I didn't really have any expectations for this book, so I didn't really think it was going to be quite that brutal. But, like, when the trial started, and even in, like, the first trial, when Elias was seeing all of, like, the people that he is, you know, theoretically killed or whatever, I was like, oh, okay, so that's how it's going to be. And, like, going forward, it's just insane.
Absolutely. And circling back to the trial where, you know, they were like killing their friends, I think the setup for that was good because we got to see them interact in like human ways earlier in the book where they are human. They're joking around, like they're having fun, they're going out for drinks. And then to have this massive switch where it was like these characters had to make the choice and had to give the command and then have to also live with that guilt. So we have two separate characters that are facing their guilt in various ways.
Yeah. I feel like it was only like the anguish that they were going through was only amplified by the fact that they had like friends in the academy was probably like one of the only bright points in their life because everything else is so just like full of hatred and murder and whatever. So I feel like that just made everything so much more depressing. And just
I will say I definitely agree with this though because I was like, you're investing so much time and so many years into training these people only to like kill them off. But again, the trials were something that hadn't happened ever. It was like forewarned like years and years and years prior. So it's not like an every year sort of occurrence. But it is really interesting that they were just like, all right, this is it. But it makes sense. It's all about loyalty and just obeying the orders you're given, right? Like, if your commander says, like, murder your whole entire, like, squad of people, like, you should obey without question. And I think, like, Helene had that, right? Where she felt the guilt, but she went straight through. And someone had asked, the third trial didn't really make sense. And I think that was solely because the augurs have that ability to somehow reach into the future or like see the future or lean into the future and knew that like Elias had to be kind of eliminated. Like things had to be set to that point. So I think the trial was never the third trial. Oh my gosh. Was there 3 or 4 trials? There was 3, right?
I think there were 4.
Oh, was there 4? Because I'm talking about when they make the characters kill Laya.
There 4.
There was the mental when they were just dumped out in the middle of wherever, and then they had to kill their opposing enemy and then kill Laya.
I think Helene won the first one, then Marcus won the third one. What was the second one?
What was the second one? There was 4. Elias won the third one. Oh, that's when they just had to survive. When Elias and Helene were teamed up.
Right. Okay.
Fear, fighting on the beach, battle with the classmates, and then the last one. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All you
I wanted to throw hands with Marcus the whole book. You need both. But his character is really interesting. I don't know if we get POVs from Marcus's perspective, but Sabbath here does a really good job with these characters. They're all, and that's something too, is they're all so different. Even though, like, we have all these characters that grew up in the same environment, right? We have Helene, who respects her country and wants to fight for it, but also doesn't agree with, like, the brutality and how horrible Marcus is. But then we have Elias, who was also trained in this situation, who has empathy and humanity. And then we have Laya on the opposite side of the spectrum, during, like, in the Resistance. So I think following each of these separate characters, I think, is a good mesh to make a good story.
Yeah, I feel like she did a good job at like differentiating all of them, giving them like their own motives.
Absolutely. Helena's so underrated in the sense of Elias sees her as a friend, but she genuinely carries their whole survival. Literally,
Yeah.
Elias would be dead 10 times over if it wasn't for Helene. And I love how like strong she is as a female character too. I think her downfall is like just her undevoted loyalty, which is only a downfall because we're outside of it, right? She was trained, she was conditioned to believe in these things. So her loyalty is typically viewed as a good thing. But it's interesting being on the opposite side and getting like Laya's perspective, where it's like loyalty is not always good because the cause you're fighting for is not always right and just. But Helene, when she's talking to Elias, is like, we conquered them. Like, we deserve to be above them. Like, we fought, we died to like in order to rule these people. But it's lacking that humanity. So it's really interesting how characters on either side both believe that what they're fighting for is correct. But then there's also extremists like Marcus who just enjoy the brutality of it. And then obviously we have like sympathizers like Elias. So this tackles so many topics for YA. Like it's actually insane.
I just wasn't expecting any of what this book was actually like. And I was just very pleasantly surprised by like how deep it goes into all of these topics. And I feel like it's going to be even better going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this was Sabatahir's debut.
That's a strong debut.
I can't think of anything else she wrote beforehand. Yep, it looks like An Ember in the Ashes. Yeah, because it was 2015. Yeah, apparently she began writing Ember in the Ashes while working nights as a newspaper editor.
Oh, interesting. Damn. Major respect. Where is the comment I was going to read? Oh, yeah. Someone said, I liked how the book began to explore the corruption that exists within the Resistance as well. I'm also very excited to see what happens in the next book. Oh, I feel like, because you get, like, the corruption, obviously, that's going on within the Empire and them just being, like, awful, terrible people. But even the Resistance group that you're supposed to, like, want to root for as somebody reading the book, you see that they're also, like, not the best people. So I really liked the exploration of that, and I'm really excited to see more of like what their actual motivations are like. And I feel like learning more about Laya's mother is also going to be really interesting based on some things that have been said about her by, I think, mainly Cook. So
absolutely. Yeah, and that is the cool thing too, because it's like there aren't just good and evil. Like this is not a very like black and white thing. Like I feel like a lot of YA might fall victim to because it's easier to explore those themes. Like this is bad, this is good. But seeing the good with corruption, it's like, oh, so you can't trust everything here. And then seeing the bad with people that have humanity, it's like, okay, well, they just believe in what they're fighting for. But you have to teach them like why it is wrong. And it goes deep. Like, that's crazy, like how many topics. And like, even like I said, I read this, I think for the first time in 2018 is when I met the author. So that was 6 years ago, right? I didn't pick up on all these like subtle themes and didn't really like actively think about like how much we were exploring this series. So being able to reread it with like a fresher perspective and more awareness is also really good. And I think that's also the beauty of YA is like it can tackle these heavy topics and you can process them subconsciously. But then if you think about it more as you get older and more understanding, I think it has a lot of impact in a lot of topics.
Yeah. I feel like it has, I really like that comment as well. I feel like it has the ability to just be like relevant for such a long time. And for somebody to be able to get something new out of it, like every time they read it further down the road. And just like the versatility of this book, I think it's like genius.
Absolutely. Someone said this book was just so topical for the times we're living in, and I'm so thankful because it gives me a place to kind of process everything, but in a fantasy world. And I think that's exactly right. you don't always have to make every book you read, like you don't have to always compare it to the real world, right? But when you do read those books and you do want to take the time to do so, I think it's a really safe space to be able to do it. And I think this is definitely topical, and it definitely will stay topical because, history repeats itself. And I think situations like these happen all the time throughout history and in current day. So I think there's a lot of depth and nuance to this book. Absolutely. What did you think about the augurs? I think they were interesting characters. I don't trust them. Like, I don't know. They're all over the place because at first you have the first interaction with the augur is when he's like convincing Elias to stay, right? But then you also have the augurs doing nothing when Marcus and Zach are trying to like murder Helene and Elias. And then you're like, are they working for the Empire? Are they working for themselves? What are their motives? I feel like it's all very like muddled and you can't really tell what their true desire is.
Yeah. But I think that makes them a really interesting like player in this game because I feel like I don't know what they're going to do at like any given point.
Absolutely.
Because in the beginning I was like, obviously like these people suck. They're not helpful. But like as the book goes forward, I'm like, are they? What are they doing? Why are they doing
right?
this?
What are their motives? And they're almost like, and there's like an unknown card, right? Like, I feel like with our other characters, we've kind of established their motives and what actions they will take and what actions they will not take. But with the augurs, it's just like that little bit of spice into the story, like the little bit of unexpected. We don't know what's going to happen.
And I really like that. I think they're written very well.
Absolutely. I read this book right after Divine Rivals, and both books made me realize and understand why people say that reading is political. I do agree with that to a certain extent. I think you have the choice to make reading political if you so desire, because some people use reading as escapism, and some people do use reading to discuss politics, and both are valid and both should happen. Like when I was younger, I was, like I said, I was not reading this book for any political discussion. It was just like, ooh, love triangles, okay. War camps, okay. Like really cool world building. But now looking at it, I have now the choice to place current day politics and view this book from that frame. So I think reading can be political, but reading is not always political. You have that choice. And I think that's what's so cool about this hobby, right? And the experiences of the authors can seep into their world as well. Someone had said, I wonder if the author's time working as a newspaper editor gave her insight into current times and how she brought the story to life. And that is a complete possibility. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah. It's not a good follow-up to what you just said, but yeah.
Someone said, circling back to the augurs. I know I keep saying circling back. I started saying it ironically, like circling back, and now it's just accidentally like seeped into my.
Last night we were on a call. Side note here, it was like we were like an hour and a half into this call, and she was like circling back to this. It was like an hour since we had talked about that topic.
Listen, it was fresh on my mind, constantly. And that's a note on the augurs. I think since they can read minds and see the future, they don't interfere except when it's something they know is already going to happen. I guess that's true. They're just interesting characters because it's like, what are their motives? Like, when will they step in? Like, are they defending the Empire? Are they actually going for the good of the Empire? Or is it kind of like a Helene example where she thinks she's doing the right thing for the Empire, but it's hurting a lot of people. But then the Resistance also thinks that they're doing for the right of the people, but they're also hurting a lot of people. So it's like...
Yeah. I feel like normally I don't really like characters that can read minds. Let's regroup. Corporate girly pop Kaz.
Put a pin in it. Oh goodness. Sorry.
Right. I don't normally like characters that can read minds because they're a little like OP. But I feel like with the augurs, since they don't step in like all the time, there's like a little bit of ambiguity with them. So I don't mind.
Absolutely. And then we have characters like, oh, I'm sorry, you cut out on my end. I did not mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything else.
Oh, okay. I thought I just absolutely talked straight over you because I thought you stopped talking, but I was like, oh no, she's frozen.
No, the reception has not been good Maybe it's on my end, maybe it's on yours, I'm not sure. So I feel like I've missed some stuff that you've said.
It might be my end because I'm like on the network that like hundreds of people are also on. So I think it's bigger than the Empire for them, supernatural forces and all that. That is true. But I like how we don't know their motives. And I know I've said that like 12 times, but
yeah. Circling back to that. See, you could just like run a business meeting.
That's also a good point, Katie.
Okay, like 10-year-old me was obsessed with Edward, therefore like 23-year-old me is, but not in like a serious way.
That's fair. That's fair.
I just want you guys to know I don't actually like Edward in like a serious way. It's like this is for my 10-year-old self kind of way.
Okay. Because that's how I feel about Jace from the Shadowhunter series. So I understand.
We all have our slightly toxic YA love interests that we can't let go
Due to nostalgia. Yeah, absolutely. I am really excited to continue the series. I think, not to pat ourselves on the back here, but I think we picked a pretty strong series to read as the first series for the book club.
So everybody, it was you that suggested this series.
Oh, so. I was trying to give us collective credit. Stop it.
You don't need collective credit. It's all you.
All right. We are getting a little off track here. Do we have any final thoughts? I think we had, I'm going to say it. I think this is the best discussion we've had about a book ever.
I feel like it probably has been.
I was like thinking back and I'm like, I think this was the most like we've talked. And that is also thanks to y'all in the chat absolutely giving us really good talking points because.
Thank you for the interaction.
Absolutely.
I feel like our discussions, they're either going to only get better or they're only going to get worse about the series, but I feel like they're going to get better.
We'll see. We will see. I'm confused about what made Elias care about Laia so quickly compared to other slaves that his mother had. Like, what made her different?
Just because she's the main character.
Because she's just not like other girls.
Yeah.
I think for the sake of the plot.
Yeah, probably. But it didn't feel like, it didn't really stick out to me. So I feel like I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, it could have been coincidences. It could have been the augurs playing their hands. Who knows?
Someone said I'm a bit scared that the second book will only be them traveling around. Honestly, if it's only them traveling around, I'm here for it. I love a good traveling book. I
don't remember anything from that book, so I can't be like, oh, maybe. I have no idea. The second book, or actually all the books, are available like in their own Discord group chats, whatever it's called, channels. Just be sure you use spoiler tags if you read ahead, but I was like, maybe I should give the people some opportunity to read ahead because I know some people like to just actually read straight through the series.
Yeah.
She had some poise to her because Laia had not always been a slave. Her posture and attitude were different than he was used to from the. I guess that's a fair point because she wasn't blending in at first, right? She didn't act like a slave because she'd been a free woman prior to this.
That makes sense.
She walks like a free woman too. Yeah. Those are some good points. I love discussing books with people. Y'all are so smart, so insightful. I love these conversations. That's awesome.
Yeah, me too. They're so fun.
All right, but I do think that it's going to wrap up this discussion.
Unless anybody has any last minute points they want to make.
Any other? Oh, yeah, they're vacuuming outside now. Good. Love that.
All right.
They were at the most unhinged times of days, let me tell you. I woke up at like 6 the other day and they were vacuuming. They're like painting the walls. And I'm like, every time I walk outside, it's just like a whiff of paint fumes. It's lovely. thank you all for joining. I saw, like, before we even started, there was a lot of, like, new people that this is their first discussion, and I appreciate, and Katie and I both, collectively, we really appreciate y'all being here and partaking in these discussions. Like I said, you can discuss your thoughts throughout the month on the Discord, and I will announce the a torch against the night live stream closer to when I get my schedule for February. So be on the lookout for that. I usually try to aim it to where it's on a Saturday or a Sunday, but again, I have no idea what my schedule is going to be like. So thank y'all so much. Be on the lookout from announcements from Katie and I. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I know Cass already said thank you, but obviously I want to also say thank you for being here and discussing the book. It's a good time.
All right.
Bye.
Have a lovely rest of your day or night or afternoon, wherever you are.
Sunday, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If it's not Sunday, I'm so sorry for you. Have a good week.